Good morning, it's Thea and welcome back to Garden Goddess Tarot. And today we're doing another episode of Garden Arcana with Candy from Candy Soul and Soil. I'm having the best time with this series. It's just the pleasure of just getting out of my garden and looking for tarot in real life. It's been so much fun and I always think it's going to be hard, but then I just find it everywhere because tarot is in fact everywhere. And I think I'm learning that more and more every time. So today's episode, we were doing some fun cards. This week we are on Death, Temperance, and the Devil. So we get to go out into the wilds of the garden to find these energies. And I think it'll be good. It'll be a fun time. So if you haven't watched all of the other ones, you don't have to, but if you want to, there's a playlist linked down below with both mine and Candy's videos, and Candy does have a playlist of all of the other VRs that everybody's done so far, and it's just been so much fun. I absolutely love creeping other people's gardens. It is one of my favorite things to do in the whole world. So let's head on out and find these three spicy energies amongst the flowers. Oh hey look, the clematis from last week bloomed. The first kind of sign of anything around here is actually the general haze that's about the sky these days, and that's because of the wildfires, and if anything, I could probably tie them to devil energy. Maybe a bit of death energy too, but it lingers, the smoky feeling in the air, the heaviness of breath, the hazy skies. Nevertheless, the plants and flowers do persist. The locust tree is covered in bloom, and my Philadelphus here, the mock orange, is blooming. I kind of got devil energy from it too, just from its name. It's called a mock orange. It's not related to oranges at all, but it kind of looks like orange blossom and smells like orange blossom. So that's why it is called mock orange. It's also covered in aphids, little devils, sucking the life from my poor flowers. 'Tis part of the balance of nature, I imagine. I think I just gotta get in close to have a closer look at these. They're just so pretty. Tempting, even, one might say. Big and blousy, gorgeous color, plant sex parts. Make of it what you will, but they're stunning. Very attractive. Death does play a foundational part in how the garden works, and I found it in a weird space, in the driveway of all places, this kind of dead transitional space that carries us in and out of this garden. And the devil in the Prismavisions tarot is depicted as the snake in the grass, which is an excellent metaphor for how devil energy kind of creeps up on you when you least expect it. I also found it here in these lights at nighttime when they're glowing. The bugs absolutely cannot resist them. They are tempted, they are drawn to this light, which is of no use to them, but they hover around it in droves and just can't pull themselves away. I've been busy here, I've been transplanting, doing my little garden alchemy, my temperance, splitting and dividing plants, placing them here, there, and everywhere. And as we creep closer to the vegetable garden, you can see I've finished painting all the garden boxes and they're looking nice. Things are starting to grow as well. They're just putting on green leafy growth like it's their job, which it kind of is, but I think it's looking quite good. And I did find Temperance hidden here as well, the middle path. On the Tree of Life, the Temperance runs right down the middle. It is the majority of the middle path, with it, the High Priestess, and the World card, and this central path down the Cottage garden is very middle path. That plant there could be Tifereth as well. Never did think of that till just now. But everything around it is growing and doing well. This rose, I really wish this was a white rose, but unfortunately it's an orange one, and it's the only one I have blooming at the moment, but it will have to serve as a representation of our white rose for the death card. Orange, I believe, is a celebratory sort of friendship colored rose, but white is anomalous with death. As this poor honeydew melon demonstrates, which got snacked on by some caterpillars. It happens. Death is everywhere in the garden. It is a fact of life. Life is a fact of death. But there's others, and they're doing okay, so I'm not too mad about it. These gorgeous geraniums as well were my grandmother's. Another little hint at the way life just ends. But the things we make and the things we do, they linger on after us. They are that new beginning that comes after an ending. Life and death really are just two sides of the same coin, and it's constantly being flipped and will land wherever. Ooh, I planted that new clematis there. Sorry, a bit of a 180, but I just get so distracted by flowers. And here's your obligatory moment or so of bumblebee content. This one's snacking on the nepeta, just having a great time, sustaining itself, pollinating, doing its thing. Love them. And here is an example, a rather shameful one, of a location where I have not exacted my temperance. I have not gone in and taken control of this particular section of the garden. The weeds have run rampant. I have not made intentional selections and curated that particular section, so it's a bit overgrown. And the Devil card in the Tree Spirit Tarot is an apple. We talked about apples for the lovers, but it kind of makes sense because the Devil and the lovers are very much two sides of that same coin as well, right? And what's interesting too is we're right at the beginning of what is the June drop, so the tree will know that it can only sustain so many apples, and it will throw the ones that it can no longer support in June, and it's called the June drop. And that's kind of overcoming that devil energy a little bit, I would think. Irises are still looking great, and I have no idea what this thing is, but it looks cool. The flowers almost look like belladonna flowers, but like it's some kind of weird bulb, and I genuinely have no idea what it is, but I think it's quite cool. And we've got to check in on our bugleweed. It would be a Garden Arcana video unless we did. But no, the garden is looking really good. It's filling out, it's growing, it's putting on growth. It's a little stressed, it could use some rain, but I'm really not one to water. Especially with the perennials, they kind of are left to their own devices to kind of do the best they can. It makes for stronger plants, but if I were to water more regularly, it could be a temperance association as well, adding what is needed where. But at the same time, I do reserve the right to kind of let the plants kind of go about their business on their own terms, and I like giving them that kind of power. This little sea of foxgloves, it looks a bit ratty right now, but in a week it will be booming, and it was a great choice for the death card because foxgloves, digitalis, are extremely poisonous. I've got a rather beefy collection of poisonous plants, if I do say so myself, but these will stop your heart. These puppies, commonly used in medication for heart conditions as well, but a good representation of death in the garden. And here's the transplant that didn't go super well. I'm being a bit dramatic. It'll probably bounce back, and next year it'll look fine, but right now she's pretty flat. And here's an oriental poppy. This isn't an opium poppy, but it'll have to do because it's the only one that's blooming right now. And it's actually showed up on this devil card. Those little pods at the bottom are poppy seed pods, but it's more of association with death for me. It's like that sleeping death kind of knocks you out, opiate kind of energy. Of course, quite literally, it's physical property. And here's Desdemona. This is my white rose. This is my death rose, and she's putting out new shoots, but she's not doing super well. So hopefully she bounces back soon. And the granny's bonnets have bloomed. This is columbine, also known as aquilegia, and I've got a bunch of it everywhere. Gorgeous perennial. They look like little grandma hats. I think there's another name too that has the star in the title, but they're gorgeous. The bees love them. They're tall, striking, interesting looking flowers. Just had to share. I grew these from seed as well. These were a me created plant. Intentionally selected, placed, part of the garden's alchemical process, if you will. These lace flowers also were an original planting from seed from me, and I only put 2 or 3 in, but they seeded and spread themselves into this gorgeous frothy white patch, and oh, I just love them. Kind of a veil, a lacy veil of death, if we wanted to tie it into one of our cards today. Bachelor's buttons are doing great. Just the garden right now is just a joy to be in if the bugs would just leave me alone. But peonies and alliums and foliage and it's just a treat. A high part of the cycle, a nice reminder that it will come around, everything comes around and goes around, but enjoy the heck out of it right now when it is at peak. The nepeta's just all coming out, the geraniums are blooming. Just so happy. The trees are starting to just finish up leafing out. There's a little bit more fullness could be used there. Need some more shade in some areas, but that leaf frost, man. Now this baby garden is doing wonderfully, filling out. This one's only about 2 years, 3 years, 2.5-ish years old. So these plants will get a lot bigger. Spirea I just throw in as well. But of course, in the shadow of the midst of the height of joy, there is that lingering death, that when things are at peak, it is only downhill from there. That beneath all of the lush life is an inevitable end. But there in the midst of that death is me, Temperance, the gardener, adding, taking away, curating, sustaining, maintaining that chemical reaction so that it can grow and thrive. Stewarding the process. Wow, I cannot believe how much it has grown since last week. And it hasn't even rained. I imagine that if it rains out there, which it's supposed to this week, it's just gonna explode for next week. And we actually timed this accidentally surprisingly really well, because the last week of Garden Arcana is gonna be the solstice week, and that's the week when everything's like the most, right? The lushest. Everything's at peak. That is the zenith of the garden. It just is. That's how the seasons work, and it's gonna be great. I'm very excited. Like, obviously things will still continue to like grow and push through July and August, but June is really when the perennials just look the best. Like late June 21st. So anyway, enough about the future. Let's talk a little bit about the past and what we just did. So yeah, Death, Devil, and Temperance. The garden kind of embodies those energies so well. Like, let's start with death. Death is, like, the garden is death. The garden is, it is that which ends. It's coming face to face with the hard reality of the end of a life, specifically in the garden. And a lot of deaths are temporary. A lot of deaths are pseudo-deaths when perennials go to sleep in the wintertime. It is like death, but they are not actually dead. But a lot of the time, like with annuals, you plant them knowing full well that that's it. They got 1 year. That's it. That's it. That's all I got. So it's a good card to put one in temporal perspective about whereabouts on the tape measure of life you happen to land, which can be depressing and empowering. It entirely depends on how you absorb that information. And especially on the Rider-Waite-Smith card, where it has the figure kind of coming for everybody, right? Like, no one escapes. There is no, you cannot buy your way around death. Death comes for madman, rich man, poor man in the same capacity. So it's inevitable. It is the great equalizer. In the alchemical tarot, it is putrefaction, so it is the breaking down of everything eventually. It's the, you know, like, natural decay of the universe. It happens. It's inevitable. It won't stop. You just have to learn how to work with it. So a lot of people, you know, throw the new beginnings on the death card. Like, oh, it doesn't mean death, it means new beginnings. But no, it means death. But usually after death, it is the opportunity for new beginnings, but that kind of happens in other cards. Death itself is still death. Death is firmly an ending, and it is the ending that it is focusing on. And then you can explore cards around it to kind of look into the after, because death isn't the end, it's an end. But it doesn't necessarily mean a new beginning, it just means there's going to be an end. So I do really like the Rider-Waite-Smith Death card. Our white rose here, I really wish Desdemona was blooming today, but she's not. She's trying, she's behind. Well, none of the roses are really blooming except the other one. And it's just starting, so it's a little bit soon for rose season around here, but I really wish my white rose was blooming for today, but she's there in spirit. Yeah, oh no, I love the death card. I love all the cards, but with the death card in the garden, it just feels really at home out there in the garden. It's like death, 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 but like in a joyous and jovial way. I don't know, it's, you know, that's another thing about vampire myths. Sorry, this is a random tangent, but why I feel like I'm so drawn to vampire myths, right? Because like, well, what happens in a world where there's no death? Like in the vampire's world, there is no death, but it feeds on death in order to keep itself from dying. I don't know, it's just like thinking about how your perspective on life would change in the event of immortality. Like, what would you do differently if you lived forever? Would you love it? Would you hate it? Would you slowly go crazy? Would you, like, there's no motivation, there's no rush. If you're a procrastinator and you're not going to die, then what is your life gonna look like? I don't know, it's again, a fun thought experiment. Give her a go sometime, sit down with a meditation, some spooky music, and think about what it would be like to be immortal. And I guess, and same with deity energy, right? Like, go right, vampires to Greek mythology, right? Both immortal, right? And they both hold very different kind of powers, right? Like they're cut from the same cloth, but they're different. So yeah, just think about what it might be like to be immortal. That's your homework for today. Think about what it would be like to be immortal in honor of Death Week. The next one is Temperance. Temperance. This card is a firmly misunderstood card. Oh, by the way, Death card. Scorpio. Deeply Scorpio. Mysterious. Inevitable. Full of depths and... yeah, it's the Hades card. It's the underworld card. It's beautiful. And Scorpio's ruled by Pluto, which is Hades, so there you go. It's very Scorpio. Sag next, though. Temperance is firmly Sagittarius, and a lot of people think this is a tricky one, and I know this is Candy's zodiac sun sign card, so congratulations, Candy, it's your week. Temperance, a lot of people just immediately throw balance on it and move on, but temperance is it's not really balance. It's not balance in the way that justice is balance. It's not that divine balance. It's tempering. It's not equality. It's more of one than the other in order to make a desired outcome. It's like cooking. You need ingredients in different amounts. And tempering is getting something that's in a certain state and getting it to another via the addition of different levels of energy, ingredients, temperatures, whatever. In the alchemical tarot, this is distillation is the alchemical process of this one. So it's, you know, like in the process of distillation, what you're doing is refining. You're boiling and evaporating a substance, like technically, to eke out of it an essence that's more refined, a specific property. And in the Thoth deck, it's called alchemy as well. So this card, again, contains multitudes. We've got our archangel on the front, 1 foot on land, 1 foot in the water, balancing, but at the same time, it's pouring water from one cup to the other. But it's not equal amounts. It's not necessarily maintaining an equality or balance. It's just mixing for the reason of a certain purpose. So it has, you can throw it emotionally on, like keeping your temper, which is kind of like, and some people will throw that definition on the temperance card, where it's just like, you know, regulate your moods, you know, keep sweet, like, you know, which I really not a huge fan, because sometimes like, temperance is a tool. Temperance is something you can do to get a desired outcome. Temperance is a process that you can apply to something, situation, emotion, experience, in order to change it and get your desired outcome. It's a card of control, which is fantastic. I like that. There's oh, I don't wish I had yellow irises because they're a bad color, but there's yellow little swamp irises on this card, and if I had some, I would show you. But I don't, but just they're there in spirit. Yeah, there's lots of symbols on this card. There's a solar symbol on the forehead. There's the one of the tattvas over the heart space. There's the crown over the mountains in the distance. The road, the journey towards enlightenment. Yeah, there's a lot on there, but it's just a great card. They're all great. But specifically in the garden though, temperance is the act of adding and taking away, planting here, weeding there, because plants are just plants. We decide whether they're weeds or they're desirable, right? It is us, this power that has the ability to tweak and mold things, distill them to what our desired outcome is. So when I plant a plant here, when I weed this plant here, it's me using the energy of temperance to create a desired outcome. It is a card of control. It is a card of self, like it's power. It is your power to decide, your power to do actions that lead you to your desired outcome. And it's awesome. So again, I'm very Sag, right? It's, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do what I want. This is the I'm gonna do what I want card. My rising sign is also Sag, so, you know. I'm a little bit in this card too, but it's very much that. It's deciding what's a weed. Like, I could decide half of those foxgloves are weeds and rip them out. I can decide what ones to stay in order to make this experience, this garden, this magnum opus, this, you know, project that is my life into what it is I desire. So that's temperance. Just so you know. Like, if you have another experience of temperance, again, each card contains multitudes. Please throw them down below. I'm always open to new interpretations, but again, like, temperance for me is very much a card of control and discernment as well. It's just choosing what not to do as well as choosing what to do, but I think what you choose to do is always more impactful than what you choose not to. Because if I chose to do nothing in this garden, it would be a weedy mess. It would go wild. It would not be by definition a garden anymore. It would just be like a wild space. And if I chose to do too much, I don't know, I feel like it wouldn't thrive in that case. It's that tempering, that choosing what to do, what not to do in order to facilitate the health and growth of this wonderful garden, and it's going good so far. So anyway, temperance. Yammered on about that one a bit too much. And our last little friend is the Devil. One of my favorite cards. And I will say that about every one of them. But it is sassy, it is delightful, it's upsetting. It can throw people a little bit. It has so much symbolism, so much meaning. It is steeped in lore. There's a representation of this energy in every pantheon, in every culture. There is sort of this divine negativity that's everywhere that needs to exist in order to compare the lightness to it, right? Because if everything was good and light, there would be no evil. It would just be neutral. So in order to have the light, the more than, the holier, you need to have the grit and the dirt beneath. So this is the Devil. And this one, especially in the Rider-Waite-Smith, you can see the similarities between the Lover's card. There are a lot. These two energies are tied, with the Lovers being choice and commitment, and the Devil being that powerlessness, the inability to make a choice. And I sit in this energy a lot because I have a very hard time making decisions. It's feeling forced to do something. It's feeling forced or coerced or just without the power. This is a card of surrendering of power to some other force. That moth to the flame, those bugs to that light. That is Devil energy. That is, it's hard to realize in real life when this energy's around, but that's what it is. It is the surrendering of power to somebody else or something else. And it's not always bad. Sometimes you need that. But the other time, you want to be able to claim that personal sovereignty because it is easier to leave the power to someone else, but ultimately the goal is to be in control of our own lives. That is the ideal situation, in my personal opinion. So it's not always good to sit in this devil space for too long, but it's fun to be there sometimes. Nothing wrong with being chained up now and then. Surrendering power can be a great deal of fun. Waggles eyebrows, hints towards the Thoth version of this card. But yes, no, the devil energy, you've got our Adam and Eve chained rather loosely to this rather malicious looking, kind of grumpy, a little bit stressed devil guy. And he looks kind of like a goat, because this is the Capricorn card. And Capricorn, nothing wrong with Capricorns. Capricorns do get a bad rep sometimes, but they are very much, they're that control energy, aren't they? Capricorns, it's, and in the material realms, Capricorn's an earth sign. So yes, very much wanting to be in that control space. Be the devil for someone else. And we've all been devils before. Unavoidable. It's taking the control, taking the power away from someone else for our own gain. That's what being a devil is. And sometimes you need to do that. Sometimes you need to prioritize yourself. But other times, it's important to realize that everyone has their own personal autonomy and they are in control of their own lives. And if you are the kind of person that constantly takes control away from other people, you're a bad person. You're not looked favorably upon in our society. So the devil is taking power away from others. The devil is the uncontrollable forces, the bugs that eat my plants, the rain that will not come. That is the devil. The lights that draw the moths in. My desires, there is the desire aspect, the temptation aspect of the devil as well. The desire for more. My desire to have more plants, to look after more plants, to expand the garden, to make it something in the eyes of what? And it's a time for me to sit down and think about the garden and realize why I do it. I've got a pretty strong and firm grasp of why I do it, but sometimes the devil energy creeps in and goes, don't you want to have all of the plants? But really, I can only look after so much, so I might be getting myself in a bit deep there, so keeping that in check. But the materialism aspect of the devil card is only a small facet of it. There's a lot more going on there. There's a lot of spicy, energetic sexiness about the devil, that the desire aspect of it, the, you know, that which is seen as wrong societally isn't like it, and it's all context, right? Everything within context. It's that which we hold as less than, as shadow, like in the Tree Spirit Tarot with its apple reference. It's the shadow, it's the unknown, it's that which we repress because we feel like that part of ourselves is not worthy to be shown. So working on that relationship with the devil can help you come to terms with all parts of yourself, and maybe not like celebrate them specifically, but know they're there and honor them and keep them in check so that they don't come out in secret when you do not want them to. So we do love the devil. So those are our 3 cards for today. I think we'll leave it at that for now. Death, Temperance, and the Devil. Fun little trio right in the middle. And the energy's building up, right? We've got death, an ending, the fires of temperance, making something new, the devil adding fuel to that fire, and then what's going to happen next week? We'll have to wait and see. We all know it's coming. It's gonna be fun. Bit of shakedown. But anywho, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. These are so fun. I just love sitting in a tarot space within the garden. It's a great perspective to have, to look outside in nature as well as just in the world. So if you've done a Garden Arcana video, please let me know. I want to be able to see and share as well as tarot in real life. It doesn't have to be necessarily the garden. You can walk down the street somewhere, find a park, in a shopping mall, I don't, like, wherever. Find the energies where you find them, pop them up on Instagram or YouTube, and just adventure tarot in the best possible way. So, and thank you, Candy, again for collaborating with me on this wonderful series. It's so much fun, and I can't believe we've only got 2 more weeks left. Like, wow. It went by so fast. So thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, and I will see all of you fine people in my next video.